Hello everyone, welcome to the final webinar of our 2016 Sustainable IT webinar series. We're really excited to be talking about the circular economy today and its impact on IT products. And being such a hot topic, I'm sure that no matter what business you're in, circular thinking is starting to become a part of our product ecosystem and a strategy for more sustainable development. Firstly, my name's Claire Hobby. I'm from TCO Development, and we're the organization behind the TCO Certified Sustainability Certification for IT products. TCO Certified is used by buyers and brands worldwide and includes life cycle criteria for social and environmental responsibility, along with independent verification of products and factories. And you can get more information at tcodevelopment.com. On to our agenda for today. We'll start with a quick introduction to the key concepts and principles about the circular economy, as well as list a couple of initiatives for further reading and learning and how to engage in circular economy in your company. And then many of you have asked to hear from industry in our webinar series this year, so we thought today is a great opportunity to do that. And we'll hear directly from two major brands, Samsung and Dell, about what they're doing to apply the circularity principles in their product businesses. We'll also, of course, have some time for some Q&A. I'm hoping after each of our guest speakers today we'll take some questions. We'll get to as many as we can. For those we don't get to, we're happy to answer those individually in an email or if you contact us after the webinar, but we'll make sure you get the answers that you need. Welcoming today's presenters, I'm delighted to welcome our two guest speakers today. Firstly, Anna Chiara Torchiano is Manager of Corporate Affairs and Sustainability at Samsung Nordics, where she focuses on integrating sustainability into the business. Before joining Samsung, Anna Chiara was Environment and EU Affairs Manager at a global electronics brand based in Stockholm and Brussels. She has also worked as Account Director at a leading EU affairs consultancy in Brussels. She's a graduate in International Relations and Economics History from the London School of Economics and holds an MBA from the Stockholm School of Economics. Our second speaker is Louisa Koch, Corporate Sustainability Lead at Dell EMC Europe, Middle East and Africa, where she's working closely with colleagues, customers and partners to share and develop Dell's corporate sustainability program and drive sustainability in business development. Prior to joining Dell, Louise was head of CSR for the Confederation of Danish Enterprise, where she also served as a board member of the Danish Ethical Trade Initiative and national expert in the ICC Commission on CSR and anti-corruption. She holds a master's degree in anthropology and innovation from the University of Copenhagen. So welcome to Anna Chiara and Louisa today. So let's take a couple of minutes and do a quick introduction to the circular economy. Some of you may be very well versed in these principles, for others it might be new, so let's start with the basics. And the circular economy, these principles are really a model for a more sustainable economic growth. And one way of looking at it is the idea of taking our resources and transitioning them into living systems, minimizing the negative external effects of our products, reducing resource use and waste, while boosting recycling and reuse. So we can look at this in terms of three principles. And the first one is better managing our resource flows, both technical resources and natural resources. Second principle is optimizing our use of those resources. So keeping our products and materials in cycles longer and creating value from those cycles. The third principle is quite simple. It's really seeing waste as food. And we know it's easy, while it's a simple thought, it's much more complex to do in practice, of course. But it's really about recovering and regenerating products and materials for various uses in those cycles that we mentioned earlier. Many of you are familiar with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is really a great go-to source for information and engagement on circular economy. And it's really looking at taking our products from a linear model, which is a more traditional model of take, make, and dispose, to a more circular way of thinking. And this linear model of take, make, and dispose has really brought some challenges in the IT product space. E-waste is still the world's fastest growing waste stream, and we have a lot of untapped potential to improve our recycling rates, our reuse, and even develop new and different usage models for IT products to create more sustainable efficiencies in that product ecosystem. So moving from a linear model to a more circular model, and I know that many of you are familiar with this somewhat complex illustration from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. But to the right side we see the concept of value loops. So ways we can treat products after collecting them at the end of what we see as their usable life, and maximizing their value through these additional cycles, such as extending their product life, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacture, or recycling or upcycling, rather than allowing these products to enter the waste stream or landfill. A quick look at some of the current initiatives and resources for further reading. The European Commission, has just adopted a circular economy package consisting of an EU action plan for the circular economy, and that establishes a program of action with measures covering the whole product life cycle, from production and consumption to waste management and the market for secondary raw materials. So I'll be happy to send out a link about that. As we mentioned before, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is also a great source of information, published reports, various ways to engage and learn as a company. They also have some great education and training materials that you can use. Another source that I'm beginning to learn more about is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Here in the U.S. they have a lot of good guidance and best practices to take a look at as well. Finally, we'd love to connect with you, and you can also feel free to learn more about our work through our Facebook and Twitter feeds. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn or tcodevelopment.com, or reach us by email at purchasing@tcodevelopment.com. So with that introduction, it's my pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker, Anna Chiara Torciano, who will be giving us a little bit more of a deep dive into how Samsung is working with some of the principles we talked about earlier today. So Anna Chiara, welcome.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much to TCO for the invitation to speak on this very important topic. And I represent Samsung. I sit here in the Nordics, where also TCO is based. Our starting point from us on circular economy is that we live in a time of immense change in our societies, and technology is one of the drivers of this change. We as Samsung, we believe in progress, and this is our vision and what we stand for. We defy barriers to achieve meaningful progress and share the benefits of technology with all. Technology is also a great platform to advance the circular economy. However, there are challenges. We are a fast-moving industry, and we need to ourselves move to a more circular model for our products and services. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll share with you some examples of how we're working with the circular economy at Samsung, and also some reflections on the policy making at European level, but also at the national level. Starting off with what Samsung is doing on the circular economy. We have a lot of initiatives, but I like to look at three in particular. And the first one is how we bring circular economy in our focus on consumers. We're a very consumers-focused company, and we want to drive meaningful innovation, technology that makes life easier, simpler, more fun for consumers. And under this, we focus on quality and services. The second aspect I'd like to highlight is materials, innovation in materials. And thirdly, recycling. So how we take our responsibility in the recycling ecosystem. To start off with some consumers example, quality and services to consumers. The first one I'd like to bring up is smartphones. They are one of the backbones of our business, and in all our markets we offer 2-year warranty. These are examples that provide quality repair to consumers, and we believe that by doing that we also advance the circular economy. We also have 10-year warranties on some key components in white goods, for example. The other example is in many countries around the world we have premium repair centers where we promise 1-hour service on our smartphones, and when we don't manage 1 hour we generally manage in 2 hours. So this is also another example of, we think, meaningful innovation for consumers that is also good for the circular economy. And thirdly, we've developed an app that is available on all our smartphones and TVs where consumers can get support and repair remotely. And this is especially great for less tech-savvy consumers who can use this service, and we've seen that consumers really appreciate it. Some other examples of quality and services that bring meaningful innovation to consumers. We know that a reason consumers come to repair their smartphones is because of water damage. So we constantly improve the water and dust resistance of our smartphones. And another example is an expandable external memory that keeps smartphones running longer. During this year, our colleagues in the UK have also piloted some circular business models together with the charity WRAP and as part of a wider EU project. And they're testing 2 models. One is to sell refurbished phones on a Samsung online shop. And the other one is when we offer upgrade programs to tech enthusiasts. We take back the phones and refurbish them to the high quality that we expect and resell them. So these are new pilots that I found a lot of interest in the company. Moving on to innovation in materials. The focus there is really to increase the use of recycled plastics, and I'll give you quickly a couple of examples. On our desktop monitors developed from 2015, we have 30% recycled plastic as a share of weight. Another example is our smartphones, where in the earphone case, in the inner tray, in the charger, there is recycled plastic. And this applies to our last 2 flagship smartphones, so it's very high volumes. In total, we have 6.3% of recycled plastics out of the total plastics we used in 2015. It's relatively low, but it's been doubled since 2013. And why it's important is that with our size, we can really contribute to the growth of the market in recycled materials. Some other examples, for example, we test new materials. We have piloted a carbon-based plastic in our TV audios in the US. We also reuse parts. We refurbish PCBs in our own factory in Slovakia and we reuse it. We restrict chemicals beyond the legal requirements and we reduce product weight. These are examples that we see are very closely linked to the circular economy. Finally, on recycling, some other areas where we mark the type of plastics on our products and we mark displays with mercury-free symbol. This should facilitate recycling when these newer products come to the end of life. We also certify certain products with international eco-labels, including the eco-labels with circular economy criteria. In TVs, we are replacing screws for snap connections, and interestingly, this started as a project to improve design experience for consumers. So the consumer focus also led to some interesting innovation for circular economy. And finally, we offer waste collection in regions where it's not fully legislated. This is just a snapshot of what Samsung is doing, and now I'd like to give some examples on the policy side because it's true that the interest in circular economy and in the IT sector has grown in the last years, and the discussion has become much more visible. Policymakers are paying a lot of attention to our sector with respect to circular economy, and by our measure, more than 50% of the initiatives mentioned in the EU circular economy package relate to the electronics sector. To give you some examples of what is being discussed, and there is a discussion going on in Brussels, but a very hot one also in the member states, north and south, this is going on. So there is a discussion on product design. What should rules and requirements have to look like to favor recyclability in products, so products that are easier to recycle, easier to dismantle, more durable. On the recycling side, how should rules be toughened up? Maybe introducing economic incentives for better product design or for better recycling, raising standards for recycling, and possibly targets including for reuse of products. At the same time, there is a discussion going on as we speak, a work going on at the level of standardization to find methods to measure and set criteria on all these issues. Now, I would like to offer some insight or some reflections on these policy discussions, and I'm sure this may come up in the Q&A as well with different views and perspectives. But on the product design, there's no doubt that the IT industry sees a fast pace of innovation, and therefore there is a problem if policy is too prescriptive. And I would take a current example. At the moment, the legal requirement is battery removed or removable by a professional. And there is a debate if this should not be instead removed by consumers. So the wish to make the battery removed by consumers should, in our view, be balanced with some other consumer relevant aspects. For example, the fact that products get thinner, lighter, more portable, and also the focus on performance. So there is a lot of trade-offs in these discussions about product design, especially in a fast-paced industry like ours. Finally, the criteria have to be defined and the measurements have to be developed. And the measurements have to be realistic, simple enough, because when it's about legal requirements, then there's got to be control by the authorities. Otherwise, there is no level playing field. Our industry is not just very fast, it's also cutthroat competition, and this is very good for consumers. It has to be fair competition. So as we speak, all these issues are being discussed, for example, regarding white goods, which are now going through a new phase of legislation under so-called eco-design and energy labels. So these discussions and these ideas are being talked about right now. It's an interesting test case. We also say that all these requirements, even if they're measured and controllable, we need an evidence base on the environmental impact. Finally, on recycling, the industry wants to see higher material recovery rates. And we also want to see harmonized standards that bring the level up across Europe. And we're not against economic incentives that regard recycling at the product level, but we really want to see them harmonized. And I can tell that I sit up in the north of Europe, and the societies here are very, very green and very minded towards sustainability, but non-harmonized or national incentives are really a nightmare for industry, and also they have lower impact because they are limited to one member state. Finally, I'd like to say something about the role of eco-labels, and it's great that TCO Certified is hosting this webinar today. Front-runner eco-labels have an important role to play in leading the market and shaping criteria in many different areas. And we've seen that on chemicals, where labels like EPIT and TCO Certified have set the standard that then has been picked up by public procurement, for example, and by voluntary initiatives of industry. One further example of that is the white list that TCO Certified has adopted for chemicals last year. Also, when it comes to social responsibility, we see that, for example, the work done by TCO Certified also influences customers, and it's a push for more transparency, both for the product certified and for the rest of the products. And we see the same happening on circular economy, where we understand that EPIT is reviewing its criteria, and EPIT has been focusing on this a little bit more than other eco-labels. So that's an interesting discussion going on there. And I like to share the perspective that the eco-labels, if they're front runners, they can set the industry standard and influence even beyond individual models. For example, we at Samsung, we have an internal eco-design system, which is a product benchmark system where the highest scores, the internal highest scores for products, is related to the top eco-labels. So we judge ourselves by those criteria. This is the end of the presentation, and I'd like to just highlight two reflections on the examples that I've shared. One is that we are very aware that innovation does not happen in a silo, and this is true for the circular economy. We know that we need collaboration with many other actors, with customers, with eco-labels, with the recycling ecosystem, and also with environmental organizations. And the second reflection is that consumers are really at the core of this for many companies, and we need to find those innovations that bring value to the consumers, and they're also good for circular economy, because that way we can scale up the solutions. Thank you very much for your time listening to me and to our examples from Samsung, and I'd be very happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Anna Chiara. That was great. Some questions. Feel free, if you have a question, to enter it in the questions field on the right-hand side of your screen. I think we can go ahead and take a couple of questions before we move on to our next presenter. One question came in about plastics, Anna Chiara, and this question will probably apply to Louisa from Dell as well, if you feel free to answer that. You mentioned some specific percentages about recycled plastic. I think one was 30%, something was 20%. Are there any goals, measurable goals in the next few years for the amount of recycled plastic you would like to be using? And are you able to speak to some of the challenges of increasing that number about using recycled plastics?
Yeah, we don't have a quantitative goal, but we have a goal to increase the amount of recycled plastics. When it comes to the challenges, it's quite, the economics of it is linked to the global prices of resources. So it's the answer can vary from the periods of low oil price to the periods of high oil price. Quality is an issue, but if the demand is increasing, then the supply will also do. Again, eco-labels and customers have been quite influential in driving this, so we imagine the pressure will continue. And another aspect is the quality and reliability, because we want equal performance from recycled plastic. There is also challenges around chemicals testing, so there are technical challenges as well.
Another question here has come in also related to plastics. Besides plastics reuse, how do you promote other reuse of materials, so reuse of other materials other than plastic?
This is on reuse, not recycle.
Reuse, yes.
Yeah. If I take smartphones again as an example, we have an ecosystem in our market, so it's the customers, often the telecom operators, that get back the products. And them, but also other companies, they do see that products get a new life if the products have an economic value. And we do that ourselves as well for products that come back to us. So reuse of products for high value products happens. It can be improved and it can be increased, but that's going on. And then I mentioned the PCB reuse example, which is quite established within Samsung for displays.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question before moving on to our next presenter. Can you explain the trade-off between battery removability in a smartphone and overall performance, and why would a more removable battery hamper performance of the phone.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm not a designer, but we've seen the trend, a combined trend of battery removed by professional. And I really have to stress this, batteries can be removed by professional. I sit myself in a repair organization and I see them all the time repairing smartphones. It's just that you need a special tool that all, trained service shops have. So the battery more closely integrated into products has come together with thinner, lighter, more portable products. And it also improves reliability when the battery is mechanically attached to the rest of the phone. So these are two links. You need less material if the battery is integrated, and therefore you get thinner products.
Great. Okay, I see we have more questions here. I'm going to stop here so we can go on to our next presenter, but we will archive your questions here and get back to you offline if we don't get to all your questions today. But thanks for all your questions. Keep them coming. Okay, thank you, Anna Chiara. Very good presentation. And with that, we're going to move on to our next guest speaker, Louisa Koch from Dell, who'll be talking a little bit about some of their initiatives at Dell EMC. Thanks, Louisa.
Thank you. So thank you again for the opportunity also to share the work of Dell and now Dell EMC, since we have merged with the other big IT company EMC since September, but with the Dell logo still on these on our sustainability slides. So what I will share with you today is how we're working with circular economy, not only in our own value chain, but also give you a glimpse of how we see that IT, that digital solutions will actually contribute to a more sustainable development in the future in terms of smarter resource efficiency. But of course, in this digital transformation that Anna Chiara also talked about, we are using more and more IT products and devices, and that also means that there is an increasing need to recycle, of course, the resources going into the IT products. And as a global IT company, this is something that we take very seriously. So let me give you an overview first of some of the ways that we work with sustainability at every step of our value chain. And today I'm focusing more on the green aspects, as you can see also. I could be doing a different and larger presentation about also how we ensure good working conditions in our supply chain, but that will be for another day. First of all, today it's important for me to share with you some of the steps in our value chain, how we're working with energy efficiency and also circular economy. So to us, circular economy is the overall concept, but of course it's not only about circular resource loops, it's really about being more intelligent, being more wise in the way we use natural resources. So if we look at the product design and innovation, energy efficiency and recyclability are key drivers for our product development. So at this point we have 90% of our products that live up to the energy standard for energy efficiency. So of course continuously driving energy efficiency of our total product portfolio of both laptops and servers and other IT products. And we're also using recycled materials in our products, not only the closed loop that I will get to, but also recycled plastics and designing for recyclability so that products can easier be dismantled and so that individual components and materials can be recognized in the recycling process. And on the packaging, sometimes it's easy to forget what's wrapped around the product until you receive it and you unpack it and you're standing there with a bunch of material. And there we've actually been the leader in the sector on coming up with new and innovative and more sustainable materials. So using bamboo and wheat straw and mushrooms as packaging materials instead of the often fossil-based materials and plastics or the carbon wood-based materials. So the mushroom-based you can actually eat. It doesn't taste very well, but with lots of soy sauce it goes. Yes, no, so just kidding. And obviously the wheat straw is leftover wheat straw from Chinese farmers actually. So that means that today 90% of our packaging, and that is by weight, is what we call waste-free, or is made from renewable and or compostable materials. So, and of course our goal is to get to 100%. We actually also, now Anna-Chiara mentioned the CO2-based packaging. We're also piloting right now both using ocean-bound plastics for packaging and also producing plastics out of methane, so actually using CO2 to produce plastics. Don't ask me how it's done technically, but I think it's quite amazing. And of course, at the end of life, which is what we'll be talking about mostly today, we're actually running the world's largest e-recycling program in 83 countries, and also pioneering the closed-loop recycling of plastics and starting up on metals as well. So with this overview, let us dive into the recycling of electronics. So today, as mentioned, we're running the world's largest tech recycling program that we have built for years and decades actually, across 83 countries and territories, so really across continents. And since 2007, when we started, we have recovered 1.6 billion pounds of electronics. If somebody can count that into jumbo jets, it would be quite a high number. I want to do that one day for you. So, and obviously recycling is many things. What we do, so we offer a program for our customers that they can call upon us and our partners to pick up the equipment, to wipe it for data, and to refurbish and resell it if it's still functional. Or to donate it to charity if that is a request of the customer. And if it is end of life, game over, we will recycle it at the end of life with full traceability, of course. And obviously that depends on the geographic location. There are many different systems for recycling, but of course what we use is always the existing authorized recycling systems. And on the closed-loop recycling, we have piloted now a program for recycling the plastic parts from all computers that are used in new programs, or sorry, in new products and yes, computers and screens. So looking at the closed loop, this is the loop here on the slide here. Actually, so since mid-2014 we started this program together with Wistron, who is also one of our IT production suppliers from China. So they actually wanted to set up a closed-loop recycling system. And we were one of the very first customers, so enabling them to set up these operations in the US. And so far, this is only running in the US because, unfortunately, the EU legislation doesn't allow us to ship electronics across borders to work at the scale needed. But still working in the US and expanding here. So what happens is if you start at the top, that either we collect the equipment from the customer, if it's a company, a public or private company or an organization, or if it's end consumers, they can drop off their electronics goods at the Goodwill, which is a shop or chain of kind of social business shops, and that could be Dell equipment, but also other brands as well. Then it's disassembled and processed by the Wistron Green Tech team based in Texas, who then ship the materials from Texas to China, where they're further processed and purified by the suppliers in this process, and then melted and mixed and molded into new parts to be used especially for screens. So coming into the supply chain again, assembled at the production site in China, and then shipped most often by ship to Europe or the US or wherever our customers are, and then getting into the whole loop again. So far this is feeding 48 product lines, and 3.5 million kilos of new parts have been used in really tens of millions of units. And of course, many people ask me when they see this slide or this model, so can it really, what is the carbon footprint of actually shipping materials back to China? And if we look at the overall carbon footprint, it's still 11% lower in the closed-loop recycled plastics than in virgin plastics. And then, of course, added to that is the lower use of resources, natural resources. So, but closed loop, so this is of plastics. We've also started using other recycling other materials, especially gold, which of course has a high value. So we're looking into expanding the portfolio of materials that we are recycling. Now, but closed loop is not the only thing we do. We're also using, you can say, open loop recycled materials. So we're using a recycled carbon fiber in laptops. So for 170,000 pounds coming from manufacturing waste. We are using, as we mentioned, the closed loop recycled plastics. We were looking at that just before for desktops and displays. And we're also using recycled consumer plastics from water bottles or CD cases, also again used in desktops and displays. And that is so far 14 million pounds of material. So this actually adds up to quite a significant amount of resources that we are reusing in our production. Yes, so that was a little bit about our own value chain. Now, to see the bigger picture and understand how we will drive, how we as an IT company can contribute to driving resource efficiency, to driving the circular economy, we really need to look at what digital solutions can do to drive smarter systems and more intelligent use. And this is where the whole development in Internet of Things and big data come in. We see that our solutions are now enabling our customers to streamline and have smarter production, really being more efficient about their resources, whether it's water or energy or materials. Enabling customers to trace resource streams so that they again can reuse in new streams. Also working on smart cities, smarter transportation. Again, also supporting the whole sharing economy is of course also depending on cloud-based technologies and mobile apps and devices. So there are really so many things that can be done and how digital solutions are contributing to driving a much smarter use of resources in the future. So we're really looking forward to also being part of that picture and contributing to that development. So with that, that's the short overview, and just ending with some of giving you an insight into some of the challenges that we have faced in developing the closed loop recycling. First of all, some of the technical considerations. Can we make it work? Is the plastic or the that we're using, can we get the right quality of materials, and for the packaging, will it have the right specifications to also protect the equipment, which is of course one of the key functionalities of packaging. And yes, we have been able to innovate the right materials, and we can see that for the plastics sample, with the closed loop plastics, we have a very of course strict control of the kind of plastics that are reused. We see again, and this is also adding to some of Anna Chiara's policy considerations, that when we look at Europe, often the plastic parts in the existing national recycling systems are threaded, are mixed to an extent, to a degree that the plastic coming out from the recycling facilities cannot be used for new IT products. It can be used for other purposes, but of lower plastic quality than what we need for our products. So that's also an invitation for the recycling industry in Europe and the politicians to really look at how we can maintain the quality in this loop. Obviously, this is a little bit beyond our hands, but we can still we can share our experiences and encourage better practices. And then on the supply side, of course, we want to make sure that there is a steady supply of materials. So if we're looking at the closed loop, will there be enough old computers and laptops and electronics coming in so that we can actually rely a stream of production on that kind of materials? And also who are our partners, and this is where we are very happy and confident about our partnership with the Wistron being a major IT producer and really also a very forward-looking partner. So that has also expanded our collaboration with Wistron in this area. And of course, some of the risk here is also, Anna Chiara, you mentioned also the fluctuations of oil prices, for example. And when oil prices are low, there is, to be honest, not as strong a business case to do closed-loop recycling. But don't worry, we keep doing it. After all, there is still a benefit and an economic benefit as well, and the long-term sustainability that we truly believe in. And then geography, we're a global company, so are the global value chains of the IT sector, and we definitely see that there are a lot of the recycling and waste policies are national and sometimes even regional in the countries, which means that that this is actually one of the big barriers for building a circular economy if you look at Europe or on a global scale. So there is definitely a need to harmonize regulations and collaboration across borders in Europe as well as broader. We actually engaged in several projects and partnerships also in Africa, in Nigeria and Kenya, where we are part of advising the government on how to build new recycling programs. And again, we also engaged in Europe on the policy development here to make sure that that the new policy is actually enabling a circular economy. And then last but not least, the customers. If you build it, will they come? This is actually, this whole thing has so far not been driven by customer demand. We do see an increasing customer interest, which is really great. We have kind of been considering how to, how to communicate, how to talk about the fact that there's recycled plastic in our laptops or desktops or screens. So far, we've chosen not to put a map or a sticker anywhere. There are so many messages that we want to get across, and of course, we want the products to look as nice as any other product. So this should be beauty both from the outside and from the inside. But we do see an increasing interest from customers, and this is also why we see that that this will be for sure a driver for our work also going forward, and where also eco-labels can play a significant role in terms of making it easier for customers to choose the sustainable version of a product, not only on circular economy but on broader life cycle criteria as well. And this is also why we in Dell have a large product portfolio now of both laptops and desktops and displays with the TCO certification as well. So no doubt that customer information will be important also going forward. So this is a bit of an insight into how we're working in Dell. I'll just stay here at this challenge slide. Could be interesting. So also any questions and comments, of course, are very welcome.
Great. Thanks so much, Louisa, and to Anna Chiara for your insights. We do have some questions coming in, so hopefully we can take a few right now. Louisa, a question about traceability. You had mentioned traceability of recycling at the end of life. We have a question if you can say anything about how that's accomplished.
Yes, so we work with partners who take care of both collecting and wiping and recycling the equipment. So they deliver documents as traceability document certifications back to the customer when the product has been recycled. So there is a whole kind of stream of documents to document that traceability.
Okay. Another question about the take-back program. The question is, would you also take back e-waste from other brands, or is the closed-loop process for Dell products only?
Yes, no, I think I mentioned that we do take back other brands as well. What can be a challenge here is that we need to know also what is the content of the plastics or the materials there, but we have kind of a sorting process, so we know that some of of the other major IT brands, we know that the plastics there is of the same quality, so we can reuse that as well. So it is an open program in that sense, that we are agnostic to the brand.
Okay. have a few questions here. I'm going to try and combine them in one, so hopefully I get everybody's issues answered. Question about customer behavior in circular business models, so in use instead of ownership, product extension, leasing models, for example. Are you seeing any action from customers in those kinds of procurements and use models?
Mm-hmm. I think we see it's kind of a two-way street, because we are also looking into this more and more. We're actually offering financing services so that customers can lease a product instead of buying it. So we have, for Sweden, for example, as a country, we have a goal of 10% of the market, or 10% of our revenue. The number of products should be on a leasing basis. So, and we do also see an increasing interest from customers, maybe not so much because of the sustainability aspect, but more because of the convenience that it offers, that it's easier to finance. You don't have to put up a large upfront investment. It's more like steady, ongoing financing on a monthly basis, and then after, whether it's after 3 years or 5 years, that depends on the customer, what they want. Again, we take back the products, and this is again where, after this first life of the product, we actually do also refurbish and resell the product for a second life, and again in this second life also still offer our recycling program. So we have kind of several lives of let's say of a laptop in this view.
Okay, great. Just looking through, I think we have time for one question. This question, I think I'll open that up to either Louise or Anna Chiara. From life cycle analysis, we know that the resource and energy consumption of semiconductor production is a major issue, even compared with other environmental aspects of IT products in their use phase. Is this being taken into account in your circular approach? So looking again at things like product lifetime extension?
Maybe I can start off. In our case, semiconductor production is partly in-house, and it's actually a factory that I visited a few months ago. And it's true that there is a substantial water consumption there, where we have water reduction targets, and we measure that very, very carefully. So by having control and oversight of that, we include it in our LCA analysis, for example, of smartphones.
Sure, and I can just add in here, I don't have this specific information on these, but also on the broader view, we are looking into generally extending the product lifetime of our products, and also looking into the production where it's if it's very water intensive. We actually ask from our suppliers in China that they do water management plans, and also set targets for energy reduction, so also contributing to mitigation of climate changes. So that's in some of the overall sustainability programs that we work with together with our suppliers.
Okay. One question, again, I'll open it to both of you or either of you, and it's referring to a recent EU policy announcement that would exclude so-called everyday items from new eco-design plans at the EU level. I'm less familiar with what that question would pertain to, but maybe either Dell and Samsung has a stand on this matter. Can anyone speak to that issue?
I can start. Most of our products are regulated, so we're not impacted by this announcement, but of course the whole ground and principle of eco-design is that there should be a saving in energy mostly, but now they're also looking at material, and that this saving should not cost to the consumers. That's the policy philosophy. And of course, when the consumers in some member states are not happy about these possible changes, then part of the argument falls for politicians. But this discussion doesn't impact our products. It's just something that we have noticed.
Okay. Maybe time for one final question before we close the call today, and I'd like to ask both of your advice to IT purchasers, IT users, if they want to employ some circular principles in their purchasing and use of IT products in their own organizations. What would your advice be to them?
If I can start here. Well, first of all, again, look at the broader aspect of sustainability and natural resources. So for example, purchasing according to total cost of ownership. Looking at the life cycle energy efficiency of a product. Also, you can't be asking for set as a criteria also the some eco-design standards or the use of recycled materials. I mean, it's going to be a long time and probably not even desirable to have a fully closed-loop recycled notebook. So that wouldn't make sense to ask for that. But energy efficiency, use of recycled materials, consider a leasing plan instead of buying one, and definitely make sure that you as a customer, as a user of electronics, that you make sure that your electronics are put back into the recycling system, so are being picked up by a trusted company or partner to recycle them.
I would also add that it would be good to make good use of the strong eco-label criteria and the work that has gone into that. And at tender stage, customers have a lot of power if they look at some of these criteria. And then the other aspect would be when changing equipment, what to do with the old one. And there are companies that specialize in high environmental treatment and reuse of equipment. It's not us, Samsung, is putting that on third parties, but there are third parties that have some good policies around that.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we will conclude there, and I thank you both, Louisa and Anna Chiara, for your insights and your detail and your guidance today on what's a very promising and exciting topic for all of us to start to dig deeper into our own organizations. Again, I know there's a lot of questions that we received today, and thank you so much for that. I would encourage you, if your question did not get addressed today, please email us at purchasing@tcodevelopment.com, and we'd be happy to field your question further so you get the answer that you need. Again, thank you so much today. I would alert you to our next webinar, which will be in late January. We'll be taking a look a little bit at TCO Certified and what we have achieved during 2016, both within the supply chain and with the criteria themselves. So look out for an invitation coming your way soon about that. And with that, I will thank everyone for today and wish you a pleasant week. Thank you so much.